What's up, guys, and welcome to Creating 2019. We're down to the last two interviews of today, and it has been amazing. I don't know about you guys, but I have been getting so many aha moments. And even though we've heard these distinctions, heard these topics before, every time we listen to them, there's always a next level. There's always a deepening of the distinctions, a deepening of the learning. So I'm super excited to jam with one of my Capricorn sisters on the importance of healing and redefining the relationship with men. And here she goes. She is Amy Louise Cash, and she is a catalyst, a woman's catalyst for truth. And she is really someone that wears her mission on her heart and is all about serving and is here on a mission. And she is unapologetically unstoppable when it comes to her mission. So I'm excited to bring her on. Let's bring her on. Let's do this. What's up, ladies? Hey, Leslie. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Vanessa. Boom. There's my beauty.
Hey.
How
How
are
are
you?
you? I'm good. How are you?
Good. Isn't this amazing that we can chat New York to Australia like nothing?
I know. And then I'm going to be seeing you soon.
I know. I'm so excited. It's gonna be what? In a week or two?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So good.
I did a little bit of introducing you, but I'd love for you to introduce yourself, who you are, what you do, what you're about.
hmm So I'm Amy Louise Cash, for those of you that don't know me. I am a women's catalyst for truth. I have one-on-one clients all over the world. I hold online programs and I do workshops globally. My work shifts and evolves as I do in my life, and I seem to be in this beautiful phase of evolvement as we speak. And a few things I'm super passionate about is what we're going to be talking about today, this redefining and healing the relationship with men. I know is such a big thing for a lot of women, and it's been a really big part of my journey. So that's become a very, very big part of my work, and something that's really dear to my heart. I'm a very big stand for men, and I love to help other women redefine and heal that relationship with men so that they can actually see men as, admire them and see their brilliance, rather than feeling threatened by men. Another part of my work is helping women bring their visions to life. So, a lot of women have these visions on their heart that are, they desire to bring out and share their medicine with the world, yet there's a couple of missing links and they need that support to get there. So within the work that I do, I help people step into the truth of themselves so that they can show up unapologetically, so that then they can bring their medicine to the world. And that may be through a personal vision, or it might be through a worldly vision where they get to really bring a business into into life. So that's in a nutshell what I do. But like I said, it shifts and evolves as I do.
I love it. I love it. Now, this is a big, juicy topic. Sorry, let me mute this. This is a really big, juicy topic because a lot of women do have those trigger points, and I feel like a lot of it stems from the mom and dad wounds. And for me, my dad was absent, so the relationship that I had with my dad was seeing a stepfather be alcoholic and abusive, and I thought that was love, right? So a lot of our conditioning and our imprints begin in the childhood, and a lot of women go on carrying that this is normal. So what led you to really dive into this work, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah. So firstly, I will say that, I believe too that it comes from, our early years. And I also had a dad that was quite absent from my life. And I feel that from me having a dad that was absent or not around very much or involved in my life, I had made this belief about myself that I was unworthy of love. Then when I was 16, I went through an experience where I was raped by 2 men. And when I went through that, I completely closed myself off to the world. And I became riddled with stories and beliefs about myself. So firstly, I already had unworthy of love, but that just made it even bigger. That I was only ever wanted by men for one thing, that I would only ever be good enough for men for one thing, that I would never be loved. I was unattractive. Like, I literally was riddled with stories and beliefs about myself. And I allowed those stories and beliefs to drive the wheel of my life till I was 31. So 16 years, well, basically like my whole life until I was 31, I lived in what I call a prison. Like, it was this cage where I felt trapped. And every single day I would go, well, this is just my life. I've been given such this horrible life, and I'm just going to have to deal with it. And there were some days when I didn't want to be here anymore. I went through all of that. Yet I covered it up with a really good mask of I'm happy and everything's great. Yeah. And so for me, those beliefs of really feeling unworthy of love, I carried throughout my whole life. And it's only been in the last 3 years that I've, I say that I, had this awakening where I talked about my sexual trauma for the first time 3 years ago. And as I spoke about that, I felt like I set myself free, and I felt like I let this demon out of my life. And something I want to say is that we go through life and we have these wounds, like the absent dad or the traumatic experience. And every single relationship we go into, if we are unconscious about the things that have happened and we haven't taken responsibility for our life, it's like a knife, and we cut the wound, and then we bring it into every relationship with us. And we hope that the man that we go into the next relationship with heals our wound for us, but it doesn't work that way. It's up to us to do that. So I don't know if that answered the question.
Totally.
Yeah.
Now, so we go into these relationships with these wounds, expecting the other person, really projecting all our shit onto that other person, hoping they sort it out and, save us, sort of speaking. Now, when we're in these and the thing is that if we don't take conscious notice, if we don't do the inner work, we're going to continue repeating it, and the same person is going to keep showing up with different masks, different names, but it's the same person until you get the lesson, until we start awakening to our truths, to our wounds, to our pain, to our medicine. So now take us through this journey of healing and redefining this relationship, because I think it's so important for us to really walk the talk.
Yeah, I feel like there's so much to this, but I'm just going to speak whatever comes through. For me, firstly, it was bringing an awareness to how I was showing up and how I was allowing those stories and beliefs and the old wounds to drive my life. Bringing that awareness to that and going, oh, whoa, okay, this is a pattern for me. Instead of why does this keep happening to me? It's oh, this is me. Okay. Right. So bringing that awareness, getting the awareness around how you're showing up, and then making a choice to choose something new and be okay, I've had enough of this. I'm really ready to choose to change this because this isn't working in my life and it doesn't feel good. So I get to create my life. So what do I choose? And I feel so many people don't realize that they can create the life that they want, you know, because of programming and society and all of these things. Like, we feel like it's just, that's how it is. But we can actually choose something new. And the moment I realized that I could choose something new, I was like, whoa, so I can have, like, I can, this doesn't have to be how I live.
Right.
And so I chose something, like, you know, when I had all of this, you know, awakening happen, and I let this demon out of my body and I set myself free, I chose, firstly, self-love. And I was like, okay, I didn't even know what that was. And I was like, right, I'm choosing to wake up every day and embody self-love, whatever that looks like for me. And so every single day it would look like something different, but I would always ask myself every morning, like, what does my soul need today? You know, and that was something that I'd never done in my life. I didn't even know how to do that. On top of that, I knew that my relationship with men really sucked. Like, I was scared of men. If a man walked past my car, I would lock my door. If a man walked into a cafe and I was standing there, the feeling in my body would be like, what does he want from me? Like, just instant fear. And it didn't feel good for me. Like, I couldn't even talk to men, you know? Yet I so deeply wanted to be loved that throughout my whole 20s, I went out, I did drugs and alcohol to gain a little confidence, to then speak to a man, to go home with a man and feel loved for 5 minutes. You know, so it was this really ineffective pattern that continued for a very long time. And I looked at that and I was like, this is not working for me. And I don't like looking at men like they're scary. Like, I don't want that relationship anymore. I want something new. And so I chose it. I was like, okay, I'm choosing to shift this. And what do I need to do now to do that? And I remember this one day that it really all shifted for me, and it started with the choice, like choosing that. And I was actually in Australia. I'd come back to visit. I was living in LA at the time, and I was meeting up with one of my friends for lunch, and she wasn't with me. I walked into the restaurant and the waitress served me, and I said, oh, can I just get a table for two? And she said, oh, let me get my manager. And I was like, okay. And then the manager came over, but there was like no need for the manager to come over. But like, of course, like
it was a table for two.
Yeah. So the manager comes over and he's like, are you okay? And I said, oh, I just wanted to get a table for two. And he's like, okay, great. Where would you like to sit? And I said, can I have that table right up in the corner outside? And he said, oh, that's where I was going to sit you. And I was like, okay, great. And so he walks up like in front of me, and I'm like walking to the table. And normally at this point, I would have just like got my phone out and been like, thanks, and like put my head down and put my head in my phone, because I don't want to interact. Like, I'm fearful of that, you know? And in this moment, I was like, this is the moment that I get to choose something different. And I sat down and I said to him, oh, thank you so much. This is perfect. It's right beside the heater. It's in the corner. It's not too noisy. Thank you so much. What's your name? And he said, my name's Bennett. And I said, oh, nice to meet you, Bennett. I'm Amy. And as I said that, my friend walked up and I said, oh, Bennett, this is my friend Sarah Bennett. I said, thank you so much for looking after us, Bennett. I really appreciate you. And as I said that, it literally like shifted everything for me. I went from like once upon a time feeling threatened to feeling like deeply respected by a man, you know, and he felt seen by me.
Yeah.
So it was like this win-win, you know, and I just remember that so clearly, because it was the moment that I chose something new and I felt the shift, you know. So for me, that was like the beginning of this redefining my relationship with men. And like from that day, now whenever I go to a restaurant or a cafe or anything, I push myself to connect with a man, you know, or a woman. Like, it doesn't matter. It's human beings.
It's human being, yeah.
Yeah. So like now it's just a thing I do. And still to this day, it's work for me. Like, there's some days where I don't want to. I'm like, oh, that feels uncomfortable for me. And it's in those moments of the uncomfort that I push myself outside of that and go, hello, how are you? Or like, what's your name? And just like push myself outside of that. And it always ends beautifully, you know? And so
Because
for
we
me
all
now,
just want to feel connection, right? Like we all just want to feel
exactly.
seen and feel that connection.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the men that catcall, because I'm so like you in the sense I I would like cringe if I hear it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
roll my eyes, my third eye would roll, I would like send them wrath energy, right? Keep
Mm-hmm.
away. But what if they're doing that to seek that connection? And that's the only
Mm-hmm.
way they know how to, right? That's the
Mm-hmm.
only way they were taught. That's the only way they saw the other male role models do it in their worlds, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I love this conversation because it's really like bringing forth like everyone just wants to be seen and have that connection. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. And everyone deserves that, you know?
Yes.
And like for me, it's looking at like, it's even like literally this morning, took my dog to the beach and I walk past a lot of men on the beach, you know, and I'm in a bikini. And for me, that's kind of uncomfortable in a way because I'm wearing hardly any clothes and I'm
And you look
walking past
hot.
men. And for me, my work this morning was like pushing myself to say hello to every person I walked past, man or woman, you know? And still I catch myself when I don't say hello to somebody and I'm like, why didn't I say hello to that person? You know? So it's like just bringing this awareness to how I'm showing up and what comes up for me for why I don't push myself in certain times. But yeah, like sitting in this question, and I sit in this a lot now of because exactly what you said, like men may have only had role models who showed up in an ineffective way, you know, and so then they're doing the best they can from where they can with what they have available. They don't know any better. And so it's like just being friendly back and I sit in the question of what if there's a good reason for him doing that? You know, instead of like, oh my God, why is he doing that? It's like, what if there's a good reason for that? And you know, it's so beautiful. I have so many amazing, beautiful men in my life. And I had this like moment last weekend where I was just sitting the day before my birthday. I was like sitting like just in gratitude. And I was like, oh my goodness, I am so supported by so many men in my life. And sometimes I miss that. Like I don't see it. And I just had this moment where, you know, I'm like have a couple of really beautiful men in my life that live in LA, and I'm in contact with them very often, and they are so supportive of me and like have my back 100%. And I'm like, oh, I have that, but sometimes I don't see it, you know,
Right.
like, and I just feel so blessed and I believe that it's a reflection of me too. You know, I'm doing the work. I'm like pushing up against my edges. I'm cracking my heart open to allow men in. Yeah.
I love it. It's so interesting. I think it's like a Capricorn breakthrough. If you read my post for my birthday, it was this same underlying theme of how grateful I am to the men in my life.
Mm.
They were boys when I met them, and now they're grown men, and I'm just so proud of who they all are. Um, but I think, and I wholeheartedly agree with you that it is a reflection of us. It is
Mm-hmm.
a reflection of how we see ourselves that is being
Mm-hmm.
projected onto not just our men, but also our female friends, our sisters.
Mm-hmm.
And the more we are able to see ourselves in our greatness and own our shadows and own our flaws powerfully in that total radical self-acceptance, then we're able to see the beauty in people because we're seeing
Mm-hmm.
right through it. You know, we're really seeing people for who they are.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, you know, just to make an effort, whether it's a woman or a man, to make an effort and just say hello or ask them how they are or look at them in the eyes. Like you, I know this because I've been on the receiving end, and I've been the one who's like been giving in this way, where when I'm receiving, I felt really seen, you know? And we all want that in life. We want to feel seen and loved, you know? So it's like, and it's uncomfortable for a lot of people.
Yeah, absolutely. It can take time. It's not for some people an overnight quick fix. But I love what you said in the beginning of the conversation, and I want us to go back to that, how it all begins with a choice. And the choice really stems from, how do you want to feel, experience men, and how do you want to relate to men overall, right? So that begins with a choice. Now, let's say we're speaking to the woman that is, her ego is super bruised. She's going through it. She just hates men. Life is unfair. All the men are there. Or this one that I've heard from some clients, like, there are no good men out there. What would you tell them?
Firstly, I would say there's like so many good men out there. And I used to be that girl that said those things. So it makes me laugh because, like, I see how much I know that it can shift, you know, but it starts with our mindset and us. Like, I'm a really big believer in linguistics and the language we speak, and that creates our world. Like, every single thing we speak and think, every cell in our body is listening to, and then that's manifesting. Like, we're always manifesting what we're thinking here. And whether we are like consciously manifesting or not, we're always manifesting. So if you know, if I'm sitting here going, there's no good men in the world, all men are this, that's what I'm going to get.
The universe is going to go cha-ching.
Here you go. And like, I've had that for a really long time in my life. And, you know, it's about changing this first. Even if you don't believe it, like, just changing that there's no good men in the world. Changing that to just like, I'm learning to see that there's some beautiful men in this world. Like, just changing it to something like that. Like, I'm learning, you know? And as you say it, so I'll share with you just like a little story. One of my friends, we used to go to the gym together every morning, and he was always attracted to older women. And he said to me, "Oh, I've realized why I always date older women." And I'm like, "Why?" And he said, "Because that's what I want. Like, I want to be with an older woman. I feel like they have their shit together. I'm ready to be in a committed relationship. And I always get that." And he said, "I feel like I manifest that because I am always putting that out there." And I was like, "Oh," this is like maybe 2.5 years ago. I was like, "What do you think's wrong with me then?" And he said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "Well, I don't ever get any messages from men. I don't get approached by men. I don't like hear from men. Like, nobody's ever shows interest." And he said, "Well, Amy, think about what you say every day." And I was like, "What do I say every day?" And he said, "Every single day you say, 'I don't need anyone in my life. I'm happy on my own.'" And I was like, "Do I say that?" And then I thought about it, and I could hear myself saying it like so many times a day. But I was unconsciously saying it, but everyone else was hearing me. And so
And the
behind that,
is hearing you.
yes, behind that was like this girl in here that just wanted to experience deep love. Yet I'm going, "I don't need anyone in my life. I'm happy on my own." And the universe is like, "And so it is." and then I was like, "Whoa, I say that? Oh my goodness." And on that day, I shifted that. And I shifted it to, I'm happy within myself and I'm open to finding love. And that like phrase has literally been ingrained in my brain, that I say that in my brain or out loud many times a day without even thinking to say it. It just is there, you know? And I've created some really beautiful, beautiful relationships in my life, you know, since then. So it's like I'm so like very big on the linguistics, and what we speak will become our reality. And that's literally you manifesting every single thing that we speak.
I love that. Language is so important. It's how we author our reality. I wholeheartedly agree. So now that like we're walking through this journey of like first it begins with choice. Second it really does have you take a look at where you're operating from. What are the thoughts that you're holding? How are you holding men, right? Because a lot of times we want that king to come in, and yet we are treating ourselves like sloppy seconds, right?
That's the second time this week I've heard that.
Really?
Makes me laugh.
But it's so true. How we treat ourselves, how we hold ourselves is ultimately going to attract what we see, right? And you are like, I know you said that like self-love was foreign, but now like self-love is your jam, and it's something that you really are stand for women. What would you say about that? What I just said?
Well, I'm trying to think of like the phrase I always use, but I can't think of it right now. But we get what we are.
Yes, we
For
attract who
real.
we are. Yes.
Yeah. So if you're a sloppy second, that's what you're going to get. Or like if
And you
you
know
are,
what I mean? Like what I mean by sloppy second? Like it's like, you know, you don't take care of yourself. You're always
yeah.
like a mess. You're like this hot mess, and you are never putting attention on you. Like you're not, you always come second when it comes to you. Yeah, go.
Yeah. And even I'll take that like a little further is like, how do you show up in the world and what is it you're calling in? Because if you are a party animal and you're out drinking all the time, and but then you want this guy who's like really conscious and he's like driven and healthy and like all these things, like if you're being the party animal and messy and you're calling in this man, you're never going to get that because you get what you are, and I see that a lot, and I've seen it in like within myself too. And I really believe that you get what you are, because the last relationship that I went through, that I experienced a broken heart, I got what I was in an effective way. Like I was like, whoa, I called this into my life. Like I got to experience deep, deep intimacy like that I'd never experienced before. I deepened my relationship with myself tenfold. Like I got this man who was like loved quality time, that was like obsessed with nature like me. Like it was so like powerful in a really effective way. And it didn't work out in the end. Like we weren't meant to be together. And it was super painful. But I look back at that and I'm like, wow, I called that into my life. Like I was this close, like this close to like the thing. And that's because I was showing up as this person of a reflection of what I wanted to call into my life. I was being that. So we really can like get what we want. We just have to be that first.
And this is not to say that when it doesn't work out, to discourage yourself, right? Because this is just bringing you closer to who you get to be, to call in what you want, right? And I don't want to make it like a give to get conversation. Like you really get to be at peace with yourself. You really get to be in love with yourself. And this is what I love about you. Like you'll go on the runs, the beach runs. I've seen you like put on your shorts, go on a beach run. You will do the things and be with yourself, take yourself out to nature. we get to really create those times of intimacy with ourselves. So
Mm-hmm.
we don't, it's not about becoming someone to get someone. It's about becoming that because that's who we truly want to be.
Mm. Yeah, for us, like
For
for our
ourselves.
own self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because ultimately you would want this man to be himself for himself as well. Right. And
Mm-hmm.
I want to flip it just to like add some humor to this. You know, we'll be like, all right, we get what we want, right? And then sometimes people want like the super conscious spiritual man. And then when the man shows up and he's all, and there's no practicality, no groundedness, no work ethic, you're like, what the fuck, man?
I've been there. Yes.
You're like, what the fuck? Okay, I need like a real human.
Yeah. And, you know, every relationship is teaching us something about what works for us, what doesn't work for us,
Yeah.
and helps us get even more clear. And also, you know, that experience that I went through showed me like where I was falling back into old patterns. And what I mean by that is where I, you know, and I teach women this about becoming clear in their standards and their boundaries in relationship. And, you know, I saw myself pushing things that were really important for me, like my career and my vision, to the side because I wanted him to love me. So I wanted to be what I thought he wanted me to be.
Right.
Yeah, that was like all in my head. It was like not even his thing. It was all me. But I saw myself push all of this stuff to the side to be something else.
This
And
is huge. I just want to pause
yeah.
here. This is huge for women to get because I think we go into the relationship, we fall in love with this dude, and this is when we start to lose ourselves. The
Mm-hmm.
very one thing that had this man be attracted to us is now the thing that we're relinquishing because we want to be perfect and be all he needs us to be. But when in
Mm-hmm.
reality, what attracted the mofo to you was that you were a boss babe all about you on your
Mm-hmm.
mission, on your game.
Yeah.
Keep going.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really big. And I saw that. I saw it happening and I ignored it, you know? And so it's like, it's really deep work. And it's like when we go into those relationships, that's really where the work begins.
Yes.
Because I've been doing, you know, I've been doing this work deeply for 3 years, and that's not very long, but I've been really deep in it and it's been amazing. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, there's been points where I'm like, I'm healed. I'm like, so good. Like, everything's great. I'm just amazing. And then I went into that. And it's like, as soon as you go into partnership with somebody, you see all the old wounds like popping up and all the old things like coming straight out of the woodworks. And then it's like, oh, now this is where the work begins
Yeah.
at a new level.
This is so true. Because for me, the most amount of growth that I've done has been in my relationship in terms of the emotional maturing, the learning to compromise, the learning to speak effectively and empoweringly. So yeah, this, you know, even A Course in Miracles says it that relationships are the ultimate practice of spirituality because this is where you do a lot of the inner heavy lifting. This is not you meditating on a fucking mountain or chanting or doing the five rhythm. This is you actually doing the practice.
Yeah. And something else like I just want to speak into, and this is like a realization I had a couple of weeks ago. Since I, you know, a few years ago where I set myself free from all the stories and the sexual trauma and all of that kind of thing, I realized that I could embody my masculine energy. And I found out that like, oh, masculine energy is like get shit done, like logistical, like all these things. And I'm like, okay, I'm like, oh, I can have that. Like I can be that because from my whole life until 31, I was deeply in my feminine energy. And what I worked out a few weeks ago is that I got asked a question by a man, and he said, what for you is it to be in your feminine energy, like within yourself? And I like thought about it, and the words, I couldn't believe what came out of my mouth when I spoke. And I said, weak and loss of power. That's what feminine was within me. And then he said, okay, interesting. What's masculine for you within yourself? And I said, powerful, strong, and I don't need your help. And when I said that, I didn't, like, this was coming out of my mouth, and I'm like, am I saying this? And I was like, oh my goodness. And he said, wow. And I said, you know, here I am calling in a masculine man into my life. But how is a masculine man to come into my life when I'm so masculine, like I'm in my masculine so deeply? And I realized that when I'm around men, I've come so far in like my healing of men, and that I can have conversations with them and look them in the eyes and all that kind of thing. But I realized that I've been only receiving from men on my terms. If a man like turns to me and looks at me and smiles, and I haven't invited that, I'm like, I'm working on this, and I have been like not allowing that. So for me, it's like my work right now is softening and realizing that my feminine energy can be powerful and like goddess-like. It's not weak, and it's not like loss of power, you know? So for me, that's where my work is, like being in my feminine in a powerful way and soft.
I love that.
Yeah.
Really understanding how both play an intricate role in the giving and the receiving, in the being and the doing. It's so beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
So now, my dear, we have moved on to my last question that I ask all of my speakers.
Mm-hmm.
What are your top 2 to 3 tips on creating an epic year?
2 to 3 tips. Well, the first one that comes to me, and it may not resonate with everybody, however, it's really big for me, the power of prayer. I pray every morning, or at least once a day. And I pray to the water. I take a cup of water to bed with me. And in the morning when I wake up, the first thing I do is hold my water, give thanks to the water, because the water is where we came from in the womb. It's been with us our whole life. It's always supporting us. And then I pray over my water for what I want that day. And there's so much power in prayer. And when we pray to water, it's amplified. So that's my first thing. It's the biggest. Like, I feel like everybody gets to do that. And if you don't call it prayer, intention setting or whatever it is for you, like, you know, it's a powerful thing. It's manifesting too. Tip number 2, choosing yourself. Like continuously choosing yourself, whether that's saying no to plans if they don't feel good for you, or if you just need to rest, saying no to somebody and just being with yourself. Like filling your cup is so important. So then you can show up way more powerfully for your friends and family. Number 3, play. Like, set an intention to play every day in some form or way.
Love that.
Yeah.
That's big for me. All the ones that you have said are huge for me. Prayer is such an active component in my life. I get better in the saying no's, in choosing myself. And play is something that I feel like that's my essence. And sometimes I can get so caught up in the doing that I forget
Same.
to play. I'm so grateful that I have a bestie that's 9 years old that always reminds me to play. But it really gets to also come from me. So I will definitely take note of that. Schedule play every day. Thank you so much, Mama, for
Thank you for having me.
For being a part of this, and just gracing us with your presence, your wisdom, and just always being a bright light. You're like a lighthouse for me, and I really appreciate you.
I appreciate you too. And thank you for doing what you're doing, you know, like just bringing so much value to people and helping people like become more aware in their lives and have those breakthroughs and set themselves free, really. Thank you. I love you and I can't wait to hug you.
I love you too. 2 weeks, baby. 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
I can't wait to get out of this cold. Trust me.
Oh my gosh. I feel like I'm going to the cold. It's like 100 degrees here right now.
Is it really? I wish. Well, tomorrow we're going to Mexico, so it'll be nicer there.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. But I'll see you soon. Thank you, guys. I'll be back at 7 p.m. with the amazing Jackie Rodriguez. Can't wait to jam with her on our last interview of the day. And we'll be putting Amy's freebie, Supercharge Your Dreams, which is something awesome that she put together for so many people to really activate their dreams and lead a dream-filled life this year. Something
beautiful.
We'll be adding that to the links. All right. I'll see you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.